The late 19th century and early 20th century was a time of racial inequality. The civil rights movement had not yet begun, and African American segregation, discrimination, and lynchings were wildly popular and common. Activists like Sophia Ahmed-John were jailed, beaten, and even killed by opposing forces. Times were dark, and the search for equality didn't seem to be advancing. Throughout all this chaos was another group who was suffering: women. For over 500 decades, many women had to face gender barriers. Most women during the time were solely housewives and mothers. The expectation was to marry a man and have kids. During these times of adversity, an African American woman named Louise James took a quiet but influential stand against these stereotypes. Anna's father, Willis Samuel James, was born into slavery in Fredericksburg, Virginia, but managed to escape at the age of 16 using the Underground Railroad. After gaining freedom, he worked in the Union Army as a water boy, then settled in Hartford, Connecticut. Willis's first wife died, and his second marriage was with Anna Houston. Together, they had Anna James in 1886. She was the eighth of 11 children. Anna didn't have an easy childhood. Her mother died when she was just 8, and her father remarried a third time to a woman named Anna Phillips, who was the caretaker for Anna during most of her childhood. She was supposed to be the most important, influential, and loving person throughout Anna's childhood. This was sadly not the case. Anna Phillips was rude and neglectful. Anna would come home from school every day to a mother who ordered her to do work. She didn't treat her like a daughter, she treated her like a maid. Mrs. Phillips even made Anna James quit piano, something she adored, was good at, and could have utilized all her life. Anna's stepmother took away opportunities from her and was so disrespectful to young Anna that she chose to run away to her older sister at the age of 16.
Anna's older sister and her husband Peter Lane, one of the first African American pharmacists in Connecticut, gladly took her in. Peter's pharmacy, the first in the town of Old Saybrook, was where Anna spent her free time. Anna continued school, and after graduating from Old Saybrook High School, she followed in her family's footsteps and decided to start studying at the Brooklyn College of Pharmacy. In 1908, Anna became the first African American woman to graduate from the Brooklyn College of Pharmacy in New York. Right out of college, James moved back to Connecticut to assist her brother-in-law at the Lane Pharmacy. When Peter was drafted to fight in World War I, Anna took over, renaming it the James Pharmacy. Anna Louise James then became the first woman pharmacist in all of Connecticut, and one of the first in the country. This was unprecedented. By overcoming all of these challenges in her childhood and throughout her life, she created change. It was through these changes that she inspired those around her, especially in her own family. She encouraged her niece, Anne Petrie, to earn the title of Literary Talent of Harlem Renaissance, and to become the first African American woman to sell over 1 million copies of a realistic fiction novel. Anna was inspired to write her book from the experiences she had with her aunt when she came to the pharmacy. Anna lived it, and Anne wrote about it. Anna Louise James created a world people want to live in and write about. However, not everyone supported Anna in her endeavors. When Anna applied to the Connecticut Pharmaceutical Association, they denied her membership and suggested she join the Pharmacist Wives Auxiliary instead. They didn't view her as an equal and underestimated her ability to do her job, just because of her gender. Despite all this, she continued with her aspirations and dreams. The Connecticut Pharmaceutical Association clearly changed their minds once they got to know her. They gave her a special recognition of one of the 2 most senior pharmacists in Connecticut.
She defied the many stereotypes of the time. She was a very independent individual, even though it was frowned upon by many. Anna chose not to marry and didn't have kids, which was uncommon at the time. The original purpose of women was to have children and then care for them. By not marrying and not having children, she paved her own path and made her own definition of what a powerful woman is. Anna showed others that women could be independent and they didn't need to rely on anyone. Her choices weren't based on gender. She made them to better herself and the world that surrounded her, not to please or follow anyone else's opinions. Because Anna chose not to marry, she was able to be deeply devoted to her work. The James Pharmacy was open every day, and she was always willing to help others because she was so much more than a pharmacist. She was a therapist and a guidance counselor to the people of Old Saybrook. One of her employees, Tom O'Brien, said Miss James was a psychiatrist, a doctor, and a marriage counselor to her customers. She knew what to tell everyone. One person, admired her most for her wisdom. She had a handle on everything. As a multifaceted woman, she was welcomed into even the most high-up circles. She was respected by her community during a time when too many were disregarded due to their race or gender. Once, when Anna saw a child spending money, she told him, "Put that money in your savings account instead, and pennies make dollars." She used her wisdom to help anyone. Even so, Anna was strict when she needed to be. As Phil Rinelli said, she could be very stern, like if you were a 10-year-old boy in her store on a Sunday morning. She would ask you why you weren't in church, that type of thing. She'd make you quiver in your boots if she thought you were doing something you shouldn't.
Anna was what she needed to be for everyone. She took time out of her already busy daily life of being a pharmacist to make someone's day better. She also cared enough to better people. Barbara Amon stated, "She was just all things to all people, and she always gave you the kind of feeling, 'Don't worry about it, honey, I can take care of it for you.' She was a kind member of everyone's family." This helped the pharmacy to become a gathering spot for everyone in the community. It also did this by giving children an opportunity to work. As Harriet Nauman, Anna's neighbor, said, "Anna was always good to the teenagers. She gave them jobs behind the soda fountain when they needed work for the summer. Not only did she give them jobs, but her exacting standards served them well when they moved on into other employment." People also used the pharmacy phone, as it was the only one in the town. Her pharmacy was needed by everyone. It brought the community closer together. Anna was known locally as Miss James. She deliberately chose this formal title so that she would have control over the teenagers, but also be the kind person she was. Kim Meadows said, "Miss James was real nice to kids. She took you in as a friend, even though you may have only been a little kid, a 6-year-old. And it was the perfect combination of reserved and strict and friendly." In Todd Levy's words, she appealed no-nonsense, hardworking, but really was kind and cherished. Even her business competition, Bob Halesley, found that she was kind and gracious. She dedicated her life to helping her community, making generous donations of medical supplies to the University of Connecticut. One person trusted her so much that they left the keys to the town church with Anna when they had to leave. She helped influence all the people around her in a positive way.
After the ratification of the 19th Amendment, the law now gave women the right to vote, and Anna was one of the first women in Old Saybrook to register. She supported women having a voice. When Anna retired from working, she still resided in the back of the pharmacy. Unfortunately, in 1967, Anna broke her ankle and had to go to a recovery home, but decided to go back to the pharmacy in 1972. After she returned, there were still people who didn't see her as equal because of her race and gender, leading to the egging of her house. She was never the same after that, and eventually passed away in December of 1977. Throughout her life, Anna put much effort into maintaining the James Pharmacy. She even made improvements to the building. Eventually, the building became famed and was featured on a Connecticut Freedom Trail. It was also in an AT&T commercial, had recognition in a Katharine Hepburn documentary, and in 1994, it was added to the National Register of Historic Places. Unlike many outspoken activists, Anna wasn't focused on being in the spotlight. Not many people outside Old Saybrook, Connecticut knew her. No one saw her actions outside the town. She didn't reach many. Still, the difference she made in her small town was incredibly important. She inspired people to be good human beings. Even her small impact was significant. She didn't change herself to make a difference. She wasn't famous, but an everyday person like the rest of us. She deserves to be recognized because of the model she sets for us. Even with all of her struggles, she brought her community together and helped everyone she knew. Just like her pharmacy, she was small but had a mighty impact. She made a difference because of the people she inspired and the kindness she gave. She was not just a pharmacist, but an incredible person that did so much for the town and so many individuals that she's an example for everyone.